Welcome back to the channel. Where does the truth finally catch up with Robyn Brown? And what happens when the carefully polished image of TLC's favorite wife collides head-on with the cold authority of a courtroom? Today, we take you inside a moment so shocking that even die-hard Sister Wives fans were left gasping. For the very first time in years, Robyn Brown was no longer shielded by Kody, no longer defended by Spin, and no longer untouchable. She stood alone. And then, before the entire room, the judge fixed his eyes on her and uttered a word no one thought they would ever hear. Arrest. Yes, arrest. This wasn't clickbait. This wasn't rumor whispered through tabloids. These were the words of a sitting judge, carved into the silence of a tense courtroom where Christine, Janelle, and even Mary sat as witnesses to history. Let's roll back for a moment. For years, Robyn was the last wife standing, the crown jewel of Kody's fractured empire. She held the keys not only to his heart but also, many suspected, to the family's treasure chest. Money, which was once openly shared among the wives, mysteriously tightened when Robyn arrived. Her shopping trips, her online splurges, her expensive tastes, all of it became a sore point. Christine challenged it. Janelle questioned it. Even Mary, silent and compliant, grew wary. But every time Kody shielded her. Every time Robyn brushed it off as misunderstanding. But in a court of law, there is no shield. There are only facts. And when the hearings began over the family's finances, Robyn was finally forced to answer real questions. Not from angry wives, not from bitter fans, but from lawyers and a judge who had the power to enforce every single word she spoke under oath. According to sources, the line of questioning grew sharper by the minute. Transfers, accounts, missing TLC checks. Why were payments meant for all the wives appearing in accounts controlled only by Kody and Robyn? She insisted she had nothing to hide. She smiled faintly, dismissed accusations as confusion. But then came the moment that changed everything. Bank statements were read aloud. Checks were produced. Dollar figures, shocking in their scope, filled the air. The courtroom grew still. Every eye locked on Robyn. The lawyer pressed, "If everything was fair? Why do these numbers tell a different story?" And that's when the judge stepped in. Leaning forward, his voice firm, his tone final. "You are sworn in. If you withhold, distort, or refuse financial information, you will face contempt of court." Refusal could mean one thing only: arrest. The word landed like an explosion. Christine gasped audibly, her hand over her mouth as if decades of anger were finally validated. Janelle leaned in close to her attorney, whispering words that sparked the smallest smile across his face. Even Mary, who had stayed silent through storm after storm, shook her head slowly, as though she had waited years for this single moment. Observers say Robyn's face turned crimson. Her composure cracked. For an instant, she seemed dazed, almost speechless. Then her eyes darted toward Kody. He sat at the defense table, rigid, jaw locked, staring straight ahead as if willing the entire room to disappear. But the judge wasn't finished. He issued an immediate mandate. Robyn must produce every financial record linked to her and Kody within days. Not weeks, not months, days. Failure to do so would trigger harsher penalties, and possibly the one thing she feared most: handcuffs. Make no mistake, this wasn't about one suspicious purchase or one bounced check. Legal experts in the room knew the implication. The judge was signaling a pattern, a history, a possible trail of obstruction and fraud. And in legal terms, that is far more dangerous than any reality TV feud. For Robyn, the stakes skyrocketed. For the rest of the Brown family, this was vindication. Finally, after years of whispers and suspicions, someone with authority was holding Robyn accountable. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The rustle of papers, the pounding of the gavel, the icy silence of a room waiting for the unthinkable. And as Robyn shifted uncomfortably in her seat, the truth could no longer be ignored. For decades, Robyn built her image as the misunderstood wife, the peacekeeper, the loyal partner attacked unfairly by jealous fans. But if the judge's warning turns into reality, that image could crumble in a single headline: Robyn Brown, arrested. Because in that courtroom, there were no TLC cameras to protect her, no Kody to speak over the wives, no narrative to rewrite. There was only the law, and the law had just spoken. So the question looms like a storm on the horizon. What happens if Robyn Brown truly does leave that courtroom, not as Kody's wife, not as TLC's favorite, but in the custody of the state? The fallout could shatter what's left of the Sister Wives empire forever. And trust me, this was only the beginning. Those words may sound simple, but for Robyn Brown, they could decide her entire future. Because in a courtroom, transparency isn't optional. It's demanded. And failure to comply doesn't just bruise reputations, it can break lives. The judge made it clear if Robyn dodges, delays, or deceives, the charge will be contempt of court. And contempt isn't just a slap on the wrist. It can mean crippling fines, days, or even months behind bars. But here's the chilling reality. Contempt is only the first domino. Once it falls, the floodgates open. The court could order a forensic audit of every bank account tied to Kody and Robyn, every TLC payment, every missing dollar, every transfer that doesn't add up. And if those numbers reveal imbalance, that's when words like fraud, embezzlement, and misappropriation come roaring into play. Each of those charges carries the power to devastate. And for Robyn, the optics alone would be catastrophic. Imagine it, the so-called favorite wife of sister wives, the woman who positioned herself as Kody's loyal partner, being led out of court in handcuffs. Cameras flashing, headlines screaming, social media exploding. For years, fans accused her of coasting off the family paycheck, while Christine, Janelle, and even Mary carried the weight. An arrest would confirm every dark suspicion the critics ever had. But the consequences don't stop with Robyn. For Kody, her downfall would mean the collapse of his final stronghold. Robyn hasn't just been his emotional support. She's been his financial partner, the one wife left standing as the others walked away. If she crumbles, he crumbles with her. For Christine and Janelle, the stakes flip. An arrest would supercharge their legal claims, giving them leverage for financial compensation and recognition of years of unfair treatment. What was once dismissed as jealousy or bitterness could finally be validated in court. And then there's Mary. For years, she has been sidelined, silenced, stripped of influence. But if Robyn is incapacitated, suddenly Mary has leverage again, legal, financial, and symbolic. The scales would finally tilt in her favor. Even TLC itself sits on the edge of disaster. A scandal this public could end the show overnight, or catapult it into ratings no reality network has ever seen. Millions would tune in, not for scripted drama, but to watch the empire collapse in real time. And the fans? They've already made their verdict known. Robyn has trended endlessly on social media, often as the villain, the opportunist, the one who broke the family. If her arrest becomes real, her legacy will be sealed, not as Kody's last wife, but as the woman who destroyed the sister wives dynasty. That's why the judge's warning was so explosive. This wasn't about one missing receipt or one suspicious transfer. It was about accountability finally catching up to Robyn in a way no camera crew could edit away. It was about a world where, for the first time, she faces real-world repercussions. But here's where the pressure intensifies. Legal commentators are unanimous. Robyn still has one last chance to save herself. And it all hinges on the next court date. Warnings like this aren't forever. They come with a ticking clock. And for Robyn, the clock is already running out. The judge laid it down, days, not months. That's all she has to produce everything. Bank statements, tax returns, receipts, every cent of TLC income accounted for. No wiggle room. No excuses. Dates, figures, account numbers. In the judge's words, full compliance. This isn't a school project. It's a test of integrity, and one with life-changing stakes. If the records don't align with her sworn testimony, the punishment will be swift. Judges despise liars. Once a warning is on the record, the next step is enforcement. And enforcement, in plain language, means arrest. Best case? Robyn complies, the numbers align, and she walks out free, though the financial wars within the family rage on. Worst case? The papers reveal glaring discrepancies. Hidden transfers. Secret expenditures. A money trail that confirms what the wives have claimed for years. And then the gavel falls, not with a warning, but with a warrant. Experts warn, if she misses the deadline, the judge could issue an immediate bench warrant. That means officers wouldn't wait for headlines. They would walk into that courtroom and arrest her on the spot. No quiet exit. No back door. Cameras flashing as the Browns' worst nightmare unfolds in real time. Behind the scenes, insiders claim Robyn is under crushing pressure. Her attorneys are scrambling, working day and night to organize every receipt, every account. Kody, meanwhile, is reportedly furious, not only at the court, but at the wives themselves for demanding transparency. He calls it betrayal. They call it accountability. And here's the emotional dagger. Robyn has cried on sister wives for years, painting herself as misunderstood, unfairly targeted, overwhelmed by criticism. But in a courtroom, tears mean nothing. Deadlines matter more than feelings. So now we wait. Will Robyn Brown comply, clean up the records, and escape arrest? Or will she miss the deadline, triggering the spectacle of handcuffs, flashing lights, and the collapse of her carefully built image? Because this deadline isn't just about paperwork. It's about whether the story Robyn has spun for more than a decade, before Kody, before the wives, before the fans, finally unravels once and for all. And to understand just how dangerous this moment is for her, we have to go back. Because the truth is, money has haunted Robyn's story from the very beginning. Debt, failed businesses, extravagant homes. Every step left behind a paper trail. And now, in the eyes of the law, that trail has led straight here to a deadline, to a warning, to the possibility of arrest. And fans everywhere are asking the same chilling question. Is this the moment Robyn Brown finally faces the consequences she has outrun for over a decade? Undefended. That was the word that seemed to hang in the air like smoke after a fire, a silence so heavy it almost drowned out the ticking clock in the courtroom. If investigators decide to dig deeper, it won't be a quick glance at recent TLC checks. No, this would be a full excavation. They could rewind the clock years, even decades, dragging every dusty box of receipts, every suspicious transfer, every whispered explanation of just a family decision back into the harsh glare of courtroom light. Each check, each deposit, each unexplained withdrawal would become another piece of a damning puzzle. And here lies the cruel irony. For Robyn Brown, the past isn't just visiting like an unwelcome guest. No, the past is pounding on her door like a sheriff with a warrant. It could very well be the key that places her behind the cold steel bars of a jail cell. And that leads us to the next dynamite twist in this saga, what Christine, Janelle, and even Mary truly believe about the judge's ultimatum, and why whispers suggest that some of them, deep down, want to see Robyn pay the ultimate price, prison. When the stern warning rolled off the judge's lips, threatening arrest if documents were not produced, the effect was immediate, like a stone dropped into still water. The ripples spread in every direction. Lawyers shifted in their seats, reporters scrambled for headlines, and the women who once shared one man's home shared one unspoken reaction. Christine's response was the most visible. For years, she had carried the bitterness of watching her children go without, their needs ignored while Kody and Robyn seemed to live in comfort. And so when the judge's gaze locked on Robyn and the word arrest rang out, Christine's shoulders fell. Witnesses swore they saw her exhale, not in fear, not in shock, but in relief, as though a mountain she had carried for decades had finally been lifted. For Christine, this was never about dollars or cents. It was about truth. It was about justice. At last, someone in authority was saying aloud what she and countless fans had screamed for years. The truth counts. Janelle, ever the pragmatist, showed less outward emotion, but perhaps more satisfaction. She has always trusted numbers more than words. Documents don't lie. Bank statements don't weep. When the judge made it clear that paperwork would decide Robyn's fate, observers saw Janelle lean ever so slightly toward her lawyer, her face calm, almost serene, with the faintest trace of satisfaction. This was the spark she had been waiting for. And then there was Mary, the quiet one. The wife who spent years watching from the shadows, ignored, diminished, erased by Kody's obsession with Robyn. Her reaction was not loud, not dramatic, but chilling in its restraint. When Robyn tried to defend herself before being cut off by the judge, Mary merely shook her head. Just once, slow and deliberate. Witnesses whispered it was as if she was thinking, finally, someone else gets it. These gestures matter, because the Sister Wives saga has never been just about Kody's bluster or Robyn's tears. It has always been about the wives' quiet misery, their silent endurance, their sacrifices that went unseen. And to see that pain validated, not in confessional booths, not in Reddit threads, but in the stark reality of a courtroom, that was historic. And outside those courthouse walls, the response was deafening. Social media exploded. Twitter threads, Reddit posts, Facebook comments, all echoing one message. About time Robyn faces real consequences. She's hidden behind Kody long enough, fans typed furiously. Christine and Janelle must be cheering tonight. But the judge's warning wasn't just a throwaway line, not some theatrical scolding. No, it was the first crack in a dam that could burst wide open. It was a signal that the years of accusations weren't just jealous gossip or fan speculation. They were credible, they were serious, and they were finally recognized as matters the law could not ignore. And if this warning escalates into a full arrest, the ripple effect would be catastrophic. Christine, Janelle, and Mary wouldn't just be spectators, they'd be subpoenaed. Their testimonies, their stories of betrayal, the financial neglect they endured, and the silence they carried for decades could suddenly become the most powerful weapons in a courtroom arsenal. But the most explosive reaction was yet to come: Kody Brown's. Because if Robyn stands on the edge of legal peril, Kody's loyalty, once his loudest declaration, will be tested in ways it never has before. Will he defend her at all costs, even if it drags him down too? Or will he finally sacrifice Robyn to save himself? When the judge's words fell like a hammer on Robyn, every eye in the room shifted to Kody. For more than a decade, he defended her with a zeal that destroyed his other marriages. But in this moment, witnesses described him as rattled, not defiant. His jaw clenched, his arms crossed, his bravado gone. No wild hand gestures, no booming voice. Just a man stiff in his chair, staring ahead, as though replaying every financial decision he and Robyn ever made. Sources close to the family whisper that Kody knows the truth. If Robyn goes down, so does he. Every account tied to her name bears his signature too. Each suspicious transfer, each missing dollar, each unexplained purchase, it's all a chain, and Kody's shackled to it. And yet, here lies the twist of fate. For years, Kody declared to the world that Robyn was his most loyal, his most faithful, his greatest ally. He placed her above all others, dismissing Christine, Janelle, and Mary as jealous, bitter, unworthy. But now, as Robyn's pedestal shakes under the weight of potential criminal charges, his entire narrative teeters too. If her credibility collapses in court, his collapses right beside hers. Courtroom witnesses described one haunting moment. Robyn, visibly shaken, turned to Kody for comfort. A nod, a touch of his hand, a whisper of reassurance. Instead, nothing. Kody sat still, cold, his silence louder than any declaration of love. For the man who once swore she was the love of his life, that silence screamed betrayal. And now the question looms like a storm. If Robyn is arrested, will Kody stand by her side? Or will he cut the rope to keep himself afloat? Either choice is ruinous. If he abandons her, it's the ultimate betrayal of the wife he exalted. But if he clings to her and they both sink together, the fallout could be disastrous, legally, financially, and emotionally. Either way, the cracks in Kody's empire are widening. For the first time in Sister Wives history, the man who insisted on being the leader, the patriarch, the unshakable center, looks helpless. And in that power vacuum, Christine, Janelle, and Mary may finally rise. But before we get there, we need to break down the brutal truth of Robyn's legal jeopardy. Because when a judge uses the word arrest, it is no idle threat. Judges do not bluff. The stakes are real, immediate, and they fall into three terrifying categories. Depending on the dollar amounts in play, Robyn isn't just staring down the possibility of a lawsuit from the other wives. She could be staring down criminal charges from the state itself. And one word keeps surfacing in the courtroom like a warning siren: obstruction. If Robyn has destroyed, concealed, or tampered with financial records, prosecutors could charge her with obstruction of justice. That isn't a slap on the wrist. It's the kind of charge judges despise because it undermines the entire legal process. In the world of law, obstruction is treated like poison. It sabotages truth itself. The first hurdle? The judge's deadline. Hand over the documents or face contempt. But even if Robyn complies, the threat doesn't vanish. Once those records land in the court's hands, Christine, Janelle, and maybe even Mary's lawyers will begin dissecting every page. If deposits don't match TLC checks, if unexplained withdrawals emerge, if side accounts surface, then the pattern of deception becomes undeniable. And here's the twist most fans never saw coming. TLC itself could be dragged into the storm. If contracts were broken or payments mishandled, the network may be forced to surrender its own records, plunging the case into the realm of corporate scandal. For Robyn, there is no winning path. Hide the truth and risk arrest, or reveal it and expose a trail of financial misconduct that could land her with fraud charges. Either way, her once untouchable reputation now stands on the edge of collapse. The irony is staggering. For years, Robyn was cast as the rule follower, the responsible wife, the one who upheld order in the chaos. Yet now, it is Robyn who stands closest to a jail cell's edge. And if the gavel falls, it won't just shatter her life. It will reverberate through Kody, the children, and possibly end the Sister Wives brand as the world knows it. But as dangerous as the legal storm is, the emotional fallout may prove deadlier. Because nothing reopens old wounds quite like public humiliation. Christine feels the moment in her bones. On one hand, she is vindicated. Finally, a judge validates what she had been crying out for decades. But as a mother, she sees the collateral damage, the father of her children, and the woman who replaced her, being humiliated in public. It is a justice laced with sorrow. Janelle's reaction is colder, pragmatic. She has never expected fairness, only justice. For her, the judge's warning is necessary, but it also confirms what she already knew. The family is too fractured to repair. Mary's feelings are layered with years of buried pain. Watching Robyn teeter on the brink of collapse offers a quiet satisfaction, but also forces her to relive her own sacrifices, the loyalty she gave to Kody while Robyn enjoyed the spoils. And then, the children. The older ones already know the sting of favoritism and broken promises. Now, the humiliation of watching their mother's name in headlines next to the word fraud could leave scars deeper than any financial wound. For Kody, the collapse is personal and devastating. The patriarch who once commanded 4 wives now looks like a man cornered, tarnished, and stripped of authority. And Robyn herself? The tears she once weaponized on reality TV are useless in a courtroom. Judges do not bend for sobbing. The warning of arrest is unflinching, absolute. And Robyn, terrified of losing her freedom and her carefully constructed image, may already be unraveling from the inside. But even beyond the courtroom, another trial has already begun, the court of public opinion. The internet exploded the moment the judge's warning hit the press. Reddit boards lit up. Finally! Robyn's getting what she deserves. Twitter, or X, turned her name into a trending topic overnight, flooded with memes, edits, and mockery. Fans stitched together old sister wives clips of her crying, splicing them with headlines about fraud and arrest. Facebook groups became battlegrounds. Screenshots of Robyn's $900,000 home purchase, her nanny controversy, and her years of favoritism were reposted with captions like, "We saw this coming a mile away." And then the tabloids joined in. Headlines screamed, "Judge threatens sister wives Robyn with arrest," "Brown family finances under fire," "Robyn's courtroom tears fail to move judge." Even mainstream outlets, usually silent on sister wives drama, jumped at the story. The word arrest was too explosive to ignore. For Robyn, public opinion was always her Achilles heel. Fans accused her of manipulation for years, but now the judge's warning has validated every suspicion. And in today's culture, once the public turns against you, recovery is almost impossible. Networks panic. Brands walk away. Executives start asking the unthinkable. Is keeping Robyn and Kody worth the firestorm? Behind the scenes, TLC's PR experts are already whispering the truth. Whether or not she is actually arrested, Robyn Brown's image may be permanently destroyed. The court of public opinion has already spoken. Robyn Brown is guilty. Fans are celebrating, memes are flying, headlines keep stacking. But while the internet roars, one group is deadly quiet, the attorneys. Because they know what the fans don't. Public perception doesn't win trials, but it can poison them. A judge may not be swayed by Twitter memes, but in a courtroom under a blazing spotlight with the eyes of millions watching, pressure can shift everything. And here's the reality no one wants to say out loud. The image of Robyn Brown in handcuffs may sound like tabloid fantasy, but legally speaking, it is absolutely possible. How it could happen, the most probable trigger? Defying a court order. If Robyn fails to hand over her financial records, the judge has options. He could issue fines. He could freeze her ability to make financial decisions. But if she continues to resist, the next step is contempt of court. And contempt carries teeth, a bench warrant. That means law enforcement could bring Robyn in, not for fraud, but for defying the judge. Now picture the scene, news vans crowding the courthouse steps. Cameras flashing as Robyn, escorted by officers, is led into a holding cell. The optics alone would obliterate her carefully polished image as the dutiful wife and loving mother. And it wouldn't stop there. A mugshot, a viral Twitter storm, reaction videos dissecting every detail. Her reputation wouldn't just crack, it would shatter. Fallout for Kody. For Kody Brown, this is nothing short of catastrophic. His entire defense has rested on one claim: Robyn is innocent. She's being vilified by jealous ex-wives and a biased system. But if she's arrested, that narrative collapses. The wives are vindicated. The judge is strengthened. The fans rejoice. And Kody, the the self-proclaimed patriarch, is reduced to a man watching his empire burn. Worse still, if Robyn is booked, prosecutors could dig deeper. And the deeper they dig, the closer Kody himself comes to exposure. The wives' reactions. Christine sees it as long overdue justice. To her, this isn't a twist. It's the inevitable end of Robyn's choices. For the woman who left first, the sight of Robyn cornered feels like vindication. Janelle views it pragmatically. Yes, she's furious at the mismanagement of family money, but part of her welcomes the arrest, because it could finally expose the truth about Coyote Pass, where so much of her own money vanished. Mary's emotions are tangled. For years, she stayed silent to protect the family name. An arrest would drag all their dysfunction into daylight. And yet even she can't help but see the irony. Robyn, once untouchable, now brought low by the very system she thought would shield her. Together, the three women don't need to gloat. Their silence is deafening. Their satisfaction? Unmistakable. The larger implications. Robyn's arrest wouldn't just be personal. It would trigger a domino effect. The finances. A forensic audit could lay bare every dollar, every house, every hidden account, every suspicious transaction. The family. Power would shift permanently. Kody's control, already fraying, could collapse. The brand. Sister Wives would no longer be reality TV drama. It would be a true crime saga. And in the wider world, it would set a precedent. Reality TV stars could no longer hide behind contracts, cameras, or carefully curated reputations when fraud is in play. The verdict of the future. Robyn's warning from the judge is not the end. It's the beginning. Every motion, every hearing, every headline from here on out will define whether she walks free or becomes the first sister wife to face handcuffs. One thing is undeniable. The Brown family has entered a chapter unlike any before. The cameras are rolling. The fans are watching. The court is waiting. And the question hanging over it all, will Robyn Brown actually be arrested?